Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I have to thank everybody who left a contract idea in the comments section of the last video. There are a lot of them, and there are a lot of really good ideas. For now, our active contracts are 0, max 2. So there's only so much that we can do, and there's... let's see, these contracts we're currently not allowed to perform. So we can't, do this science data from space around Kerbin, even though this is something that we would normally grab, because this is something that we would do anyway. We are allowed to grab the Record-Keeping Society contracts. So we grab that one. That puts us at 1, and I've accepted another one from Unthoughtful Lemur. Let me just hop over to Display Capture to show the contract... The contract notepad here that I've actually not saved. But Unthoughtful Lemur proposed an easy difficulty contract here. I also backburnered Just a Dude's medium contract. I love this contract idea. We don't have the tech for it, so that's something that I'd like to do later. But currently accepted is Unthoughtful Lemur's Faulty Shoots contract. Reach space 70 kilometers and land safely. Now, this does not specify that this is orbital velocity, only reaching space, so suborbital velocity. And using 2 drogue chutes and an engine of your choice to land, all Kerbals must survive. That does seem easy enough, and doable with the tech that we have right now. Now, this is in the system of Kerbal, right? So this easy contract means that we will be paid 25,000 for completion of this. It would be 250,000 if this was not within Kerbal, Moon, or Minmus. So that's the way that compensation is going to be going for right now. Let's hop back over to the actual game here. Excellent. And we have our 2 contracts. So, do we want to do our viewer contract right now? We did complete a world first milestone apparently, and we've got 63.3 science. So, we do have drogue chutes at this point unlocked. It's a theoretical possibility. We've got stability that we could take. We've got general rocketry here. I mean, having access to the T-200 will make our flights more cash efficient. So I think we'll take that. This is not a control surface, but it does give us access to radial decouplers and aerodynamic nose cones. I mean, we have access to the hemispherical liquid fuel tank, which we'll probably prefer over the aerodynamic nose cones. But I guess we'll go ahead and grab this. We're going to need it at some point anyway. Everything out over here costs 45 science, so we're going to have to come back to these for now. But we can definitely have ourselves a faulty parachute. And so let's hop into our VAB, and we'll get this designed. We're not going to do our moon flyby just yet. We need to make some money first, I think. Hang on. Before we go in here, how much is an upgrade to our tracking station and our mission control? I want to check that. Because a moon flyby without access to tracking station and mission control upgrades would be possible, but probably not for the best. It would probably not be the best way to go about it. So for right now, I want to check here, 150,000 and 75,000. So 225,000. We'd have a little under 100,000 left over. Okay. We're definitely going to do the viewer contract first. No doubt about that. So, we are going to load in our untitled spaceship. That's this one here. And we're going to have a faulty parachute here. So, we're going to ditch this parachute. Are we going to... How much fuel is in a hemispherical fuel tank? I'm wondering that right now. So, if we were to hop into our fuel tanks, this is 22.5 and 27.5. So about half the amount that is in an FLT 100. We had plenty of fuel left over. So we ditched this. This looks terrible. Yeah, that looks absolutely terrible. I'm going to not do that. I can't handle it. I cannot handle that. So let's just undo all of that. I do want to put on a parachute here. This parachute is going to be faulty. And we are, in theory, never going to arm it. Okay? So our rule is we can't use the parachute because it's faulty. So we're going to put on 2 drogue chutes, which we are allowed to do based on the contract, and we will specify that those go here. Excellent. And we can land on an engine of our choice. The drogue chutes plus the decoupler here are going to slow us down somewhat. I'm thinking about reusing this T-45 swivel engine here. It'll give us the thrust to weight that we need to land on. Do we have access to any landing legs at this point? I don't think so. We do have the micro landing struts. This would be really problematic. So I think that we just avoid that weight. Beyond that, landing on this structure would be very awkward indeed. So what if we were to ditch the pug? We don't actually need to achieve orbital velocity. So what if we were to then land on a swivel engine here? Like this. As our braking stage. I mean, I feel like this kind of goes against the spirit of the contract. And the reason for that is we're deliberately designing this landing stage for the knowledge that this parachute is broken, which really is something that we should discover on the way up. Right? So maybe we should just plan for a standard orbital flight, but with the 2 drogue chutes added on. What is the thrust to weight of stage 2 here at 0 altitude? 0.37? But as this burns out, 0.44 into 0.55. Okay. So 0.55 is not a great thrust to weight ratio. The pug is very likely not going to be sufficient to get us to land without a main chute, is what I'm currently thinking. We could think about attempting to ditch some weight here. So the rationale behind this would be we are building off of what we did last time and attempting to recover all of this instead of recovering just the capsule, right? So it would be something more like this. And we definitely want to upgrade these to T200s to save in fuel costs. So we can certainly do that. This is going to be how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 T200s. So that's 2, 4, and 6. Okay, get out of here. Cool. And then we would put a swivel engine here, like that. That does save us some costs, 8,000. This does not reach orbital velocity. My main concern is the landing. And the pug is probably just not quite powerful enough for that. Again, I feel like having the... using the swivel, I feel like, is a little bit of cheating here. The contract doesn't specify. In fact, it specifically says that we can use an engine of our choice. So technically, we can ditch the pug, slap in a swivel here, and have plenty of power. That is a theoretical possibility. And this should be more than sufficient to make it to orbit, or not to orbit. All we need to do is get to 70 kilometers, get to space. So we would need to set this up in such a way where the drogue chutes were about here. We would need the main chute to never get used because it's defective. And then from there, of course, this would not happen here. This would be combined together like so. And then that stage would be gotten rid of. So it would be something along the lines of this. It does specifically say to land on an engine of our choice. It feels a little bit strange to have a swivel engine here. But I really don't think we'd be able to pull it off with a pug. If we had the Terrier unlocked, I think the Terrier would absolutely be a thing that we can do. So let's go ahead and call this the faulty parachute machine. Fantastic. And Jeb, you're going to get into the faulty parachute machine and trust it with your life. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, as far as like landing struts on this goes, I would love to include some landing struts here. I suppose we could have like modular girder segments that come like this. Do we have access to struts at this point? No, we don't. So I don't think that's really worthwhile. This thing's going to tip over when we land. Almost certainly. But as long as it doesn't blow up, we should be okay. In theory. In theory. Now, Jeb is now strong enough to be able to hold prograde and retrograde. So that's going to be very helpful for this. No doubt about that. We don't have a heat shield on this, but we're not going to be reaching orbital velocity. Do we lift this empty and transfer the fuel up? Because this will probably be more than enough fuel here. I think we do. I think we lift this empty, transfer the fuel in, and then use this fuel for braking after we ditch this stuff. Okay, you ready for this, Jeb? The faulty parachute machine is ready to go. This is gonna be spicy, no doubt about that, but it should be okay, in theory. It does specifically say an engine of our choice, so I choose the swivel. The swivel is objectively the best choice for the job here. We're gonna grab our atmospheric pressure scan, and then we're gonna launch this thing. I'm not gonna be too concerned about science for this flight. This is primarily a funding flight, after all. Throttle up, SAS on, and I want to check in here, 1.54, 88 seconds. Cool. So, we're going to swap over to maneuver mode here so we can see our apoapsis, and let's go. Beautiful. We're pretty quick off the pad, as expected. Up we go. And I'm going to start a gravity turn here. Even though we're not going orbital, we still want to do this, because we want to put as much air between us and the ground as possible. We don't want to just go straight up. That would be bad. Just straight up would be very, very bad for this particular flight. So up we go, and we're just watching that apoapsis. Okay, let's just hold prograde. We may need to hold attitude around here-ish. We'll see. Our apoapsis is quite low. We're moving a little bit on the slow side right now. And I definitely want to get more vertical speed here. So we're just going to park about here. And we're going to push this apoapsis up. We only have so much fuel left. In fact, very little fuel left. Very little fuel left indeed. So this isn't going to work, is it? Okay, that's definitely not going to work. So if we're aborting this flight, can we use this parachute? We're not going to get the contract done anyway, right? We just lack the fuel. Did I miscalculate our fuel, or is it just that this swivel weighs that much more? I'm guessing it's the latter, that the swivel weighs that much more. Let's go ahead and abort this flight. We definitely don't have sufficient fuel to get our apoapsis up, at least taking this angle. So we're going to do this number here. And we're going to make our way back down. This is an abort of this flight. I'm definitely surprised that we ran out of fuel here this quickly. I mean, we're not out of fuel, to be clear. We have 500 meters per second left. We just weren't going to get the altitude that we needed. And I think it's a weight differential here. We'll check that once we're back. Okay, so we can grab our crew report here. There goes our main chute. We can grab our temperature scan, and we can grab our mystery goo observation. So at least we'll get some science out of it. And we might be able to recover this whole thing. I'm trying to avoid firing this here. We'll see how that goes. We are slowing down, so this is a good sign, actually. And we do have our main chute out. Of course, this chute is not defective if we are not, if we're not going for the contract. Yeah, we definitely ran out of fuel faster than expected. So let's bring this on down. I'm going to physics warp here. We're going down quite quickly here, but that's to be expected. And drogues are deploying. And the main will deploy now. So obviously, we're going to be going pretty quick here. No doubt about that. But actually, that's only 15 meters per second. That's really not bad. That is really not bad. Okay, let's warp on forward here. I wonder if we could get away with the pug. I mean, with the main chute, we could, for sure. Let's slow ourselves on down gently here. Down to be a little bit slower than this. 5 meters per second looks good. So obviously this is completely fine with the main chute, right? No doubt about that. Completely and totally okay. We'll recover that. And I want to check the difference in weight here. I assumed that they would be, that dropping the fuel in the top stage would be similar levels of weight. But apparently I'm wrong about that. Well, the thrust to weight was about the same. No, it's just that I dropped the fuel, I'm pretty sure. The fuel with the pug was far more efficient. Let's run a quick test here. We're not going to be going for the contract, but I'm going to launch this vehicle properly. Well, it's not going to be a simulated launch. We're going to put the fuel back in here. We're going to ditch the swivel. And I want to run a real quick test here to see what landing this thing is actually going to be like. So let's try it with this setup and see how this goes. It's going to be interesting for sure. I want this to go in here. Okay. So something kind of like this. These all have full fuel, correct? Correct. And that is the same amount of fuel, right? Let's save this. Actually, that was the auto-saved ship. Untitled spacecraft here. This guy. I want to check in. So 88 seconds of burn. That sounds right. So the faulty parachute machine here has... yeah, same amount of fuel. So it's just the increased efficiency of this engine. That's really, really good whilst in orbit. Or rather, whilst in space. The real question is it enough to get us to the surface safely? I don't know. Let's run a quick simulation here, and this is going to be reverted because this is a simulation. I don't know what our thrust to weight is like when compared to the two drogue chutes. So that's what I want to figure out here. Do we need a different engine other than the pug? This will be reverted. We're just going to go up a little ways here, ditch our bottom stage, and then we're going to... okay, off we go. We're going to go up a little bit here, go out over the water, ditch our bottom stage. We're not trying to go up too high. And I just want to see what our actual end point of our landing looks like. I'm not interested in the deceleration stage through the atmosphere. I feel like we'll have that under control with the drogue chutes. Reasonably fine. So we'll just go up about like this. We'll ditch that, swap over to retrograde, and we put out our drogue chutes at this point. We're in an abort stage, right? So we do something like this, and then we physics warp forward, wait for our drogues to open. Our drogues open. This puts us at full fuel at about 30 meters per second. And there goes our booster. Hilarious. And 30 meters per second. Okay, so what does this look like if we do a full burn here? 25? And do we survive impact at 25 meters per second splashdown? Now, this is going to continue getting better as we get closer and as we burn off fuel. We will have slightly lower fuel than this, I'm sure, as we come in for a real flight. But this is about 20 meters per second. Do we survive that? How is this still burning? The fuel tank was destroyed. What? I feel like that's a bug. Oh, it's burning off of its internal fuel. Right. Well, let's get rid of it. It's actually stuck to us. Okay, we're cruising through the ocean now. Eventually it will run out of fuel. Or we'll just do that. Okay. Well, we do survive, so that's fascinating. As long as it's a splashdown. We have to make sure it's a splashdown, and we also have to make sure, and we do want to revert this back to the launch then. We want to make sure that it's a splashdown, and B, that we have at least a few seconds of burn towards the end there. How long did it take us to decelerate from the time that we were going at the terminal velocity with the chutes until we were going at the terminal velocity of the chutes plus engine? It was around 10 seconds, I think. So that is our target then. This feels viable. So I'm actually surprised that the pug will do that. even with that much fuel, we'll have leftover fuel for it. So I think we just go for it. This is not a simulation. We just do it. We're going to grab our atmospheric pressure scan. Up we go here. I'm going to keep going up until we are at around... We want a lot of verticality here. Around 100 meters per second, I feel like. Okay. So, like I said, a lot of verticality. And let's hop into our maneuver node here. We do have to hit 70 kilometers. Once we hit 70 kilometers, then we can stop our burn. So I just want to lock to prograde around here. The more air that we have between us and the ground, the better. And coming through the atmosphere at an angle will be beneficial for that. So we'll do something along the lines of this. We are not allowed to activate this chute here. So the minimum pressure and the altitude, I'm going to turn all the way down in case I accidentally stage it. But if I do, we'll cut the chute. Is the way that that's going to end up working. So this parachute is faulty. And we have an apoapsis of 35 kilometers right now. We're still pushing our way up. This is a much better ascent. No doubt about that. 50 kilometers. 50... Okay, 60, 65. Okay, we're going to about 72 kilometers here. We still have 360 meters per second here. We can grab a crew report, a temperature scan, and a mystery goo observation. There we go. By the way, I do want to say, if I have not responded to your contract idea in the previous video, I'm aware of it. We will come back to it. We just have very few contracts that we can actually select right now. So I'll be evaluating those a little bit more thoroughly as we have more contracts that we can do, for the record. We're going to hop over to the retrograde marker, assuming we can do that, and it looks like we can. So we're at 72 kilometers apoapsis. We need to actually hit that altitude of 70 kilometers. So we're going to park here in retrograde, and I'm going to physics warp us forward. Cool. And then the idea is we are going to enter the atmosphere and let ourselves drop with aerobraking until probably around 40 kilometers. Once we hit 40 kilometers, and we did in fact hit our target altitude, once we hit 40 kilometers, I would like to burn out the rest of this fuel, and then we'll start burning this fuel and use our drogues. Okay. So we're at about... We just entered the atmosphere here. We're going to start losing some potential energy here, but we're going to be moving fast. Very fast. Maybe we should try this around 50, actually. Yeah, I'm going to do it at 50. So 50 kilometers now. We're going to burn out the rest of this. Cool. We've got a little bit left in the tank here. And I'm just slowly burning that out. Okay. We're going to do something like this now. And we want to keep at least 10 seconds of burn left in this tank. This will be absolutely fine. Powered landing here looks good. So we are going to activate our drogue chutes here. They'll go out as soon as we have hit our pressure threshold, which it is currently considered safe to deploy. And we're just slowly decelerating with our powered landing. I'm actually shocked that this pug has enough power to do this, but it's only with a splashdown. We have to do this over water. If we were to hit land, yikes. No doubt about that one. Any moment now, drogues. There go the drogues. Okay, so we can actually continue to burn here. We've got plenty to burn, and losing additional mass is actually good here. So we'll continue to burn this down as we descend. We've got like 100 seconds of burn time left, so I'm going to physics warp us. We're at about 8 kilometers here. These deploy at 2 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 6. I'm keeping an eye on our burn time as well. I'm going to keep 15 seconds in the tank, is the way that this is going to work. So we have about 25 seconds left in the tank. We're obviously more than 25 seconds from hitting the ground, right? So we're still decelerating nicely here. 17, 16, 15. Okay, so we're going to cut that, and our thrust is going to continue to decrease as we go down. Yes, we are accelerating pretty dramatically, but our chutes will keep us from going too fast. We've got about another 2 kilometers to fall here before they deploy. There they go. And now we're at about 27 because we've burned out all of that fuel. So that's looking very solid. As I said, an easy contract, and as it was specified, an easy contract. I just wasn't sure about doing this with the Pug, but it seems completely fine. So we're about 300 meters from the ground here. I'm going to commence this burn now at 200 meters. Okay, we're now at 100 meters. And splashdown. Successful recovery. Fantastic. We can turn the SAS off and let this flop on over. There we go. Beautiful. So we will recover that vessel, and that is a contract completed. So I will move that over to our completed contracts column. Let me, actually, we don't have one of those right now. Let me get one set up while we're loading here. Completed. And I will just move that on over. Let me hop over to display capture for that. Cool. So we're going to grab these, move them down to completed. That means that we are currently at 1 out of 2 accepted, right? So this contract has been completed, and that, of course, means, as we hop back over to the game, that, of course, means that we need to gain ourselves some amount of cash, and that amount is 25,000. It's an easy contract, so it's 25 times multiplier, and the multiplier is 1,000 within the Kerbin area, and 10,000 outside of the Kerbin area. So this is going to be 25,000 that we will add. We have to do that via the cheats menu. So we'll add in, oh boy, 100,000 or 1,000. So we have to do this 25 times. I thought there was a 10,000. Okay, this is going to be exciting. So this is going to need to get to what? 346? Okay, that way at least I don't have to count it. I can just do something like that. 346. Cool. So there's our first contract complete. Do leave additional contract ideas in the comments, and I will continue to get to those. We'll start up another contract in the next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, James, Shadow Wolf, Mlohan80, Ro Corvid, Kentogan, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Anna the Elephant, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.